Clinical Monday, the best day to begin a healthy week. Like I said in the intro, that we need to spread awareness when it comes to all things mental health, and we're doing just that. For this conversation, we are looking at mental health awareness, we're looking at trauma, suicide, and psychological support for people who are experiencing trauma and suicide. Please make sure that you're part of this conversation by leaving your comment on the comment section below. On Oram Popin's Facebook page. That's where we live, coming to you live and direct from. Also on X, it is @n_health with the hashtag Clinical Monday. And yeah, man, for Clinical Monday, my name is Nkosi. Thank you so much for joining us. As per usual, I am not riding solo, but before I tell you who is with me today, we are starting a new thing called voice notes. So please make sure that you send through your voice notes on the number that we'll be putting up on all our social media platforms for any clinical topic that you might have, and we will ask our experts. Well, with that said, today, as we shine the spotlight on mental health awareness, trauma, suicide, and psychological support, I'm joined by a registered counselor. Say it right. Registered counselor who prides herself in safeguarding and advocating for the well-being of children and adults within the South African population. And their name is Makgabo Seopa. Ki kupela round of applause, ya audience digital. Can I get that? Okay, I'll get that. Yay, hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
I gave yourself a round of applause. Because, I mean, what can we do in these situations? Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time. Mental health is a huge issue, and I like the fact that we are also having this conversation to sort of like shine a spotlight or awareness when it comes to trauma and suicide, and also what is it that we can do as a community to support the people who are dealing with these issues. But you know, how do we even begin to create perhaps maybe the awareness and you know, to spread awareness when it comes to mental health?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me today on your Clinical Monday. You know, how we can make awareness and spread, you know, general knowledge or let's say information on mental health is simply if we talk freely and openly about mental health issues, you know, and we take accountability to educate ourselves and others, you know, on warnings and signs or symptoms of mental health related issues, and also, you know, by practicing kindness, that would also help others to be able to open up, and by them opening up and sharing with you what they are struggling with mentally, then you're also getting educated and enlightened, and also you can, you know, volunteer like at Oram, for example, whereby you get yourself knowledgeable, and then that knowledge that you get to share it with other people outside.
I got you. That's how we can build the awareness, but you know, something that we don't talk about as often as I think we should, or even if we talk about it, I don't think it's as public, is trauma. Let's look at what trauma is, or how would you define trauma?
Well, I would say trauma is when one experiences a very stressful or frightening or even a distressing event that they are unable to cope with, and you know, have difficulty with managing what is happening because it's outside of their control. You know, it could be an incident whereby it's just a once-off incident, or it's an ongoing event that happens for a long period in a person's life, and those you know, experiences can include physical injury, emotional shock, or psychological distress. Yeah,
and I think trauma sort of like has stages or types or kinds. Take us through that. What are some of them?
Okay, we do have acute trauma, and we have chronic trauma, and we have complex trauma. So in terms of acute trauma, it's something that had just happened now, you know, and that caused an immediate distress. So it's a single event, like a car accident, you know. Yes, that could be an example of an acute trauma. or even a natural disaster. You know, when people go through floods, they go, yes, and then they face what we call acute trauma, because it's something that just happened that caused them emotional distress. And then we have chronic trauma, which it's defined or can be explained as a prolonged, repetitive, stressful event. You know, for example, this is an ongoing situation that happens more than once, you know, frequently, such as domestic violence or ongoing abuse.
Ooh. So, and like I said, you don't even think that domestic or gender-based violence, or actually we don't even know what trauma is or how to define it or the kinds. We would just think that it's just an event that happens and there is really, we don't even know how to label it. But so we need to sort of like understand those types of traumas. Let's talk about the symptoms. You touched on acute, you touched on chronic. How do they look like? What do you need to look out for in terms of symptoms when you describe the trauma?
Okay, we also need to understand that how a person reacts to trauma. It depends, you know, on the type and the severity of the traumatic event. You understand? So most common symptoms that we see that one has experienced trauma is when they have a high state of alert. Let's take an example whereby you got robbed, you know, that could be traumatic for you because maybe they held you know, a gunpoint to you. So lately these days, you know, you always
become
very high alert because of the traumatic incident. You know, you find yourself that there are also people who are emotionally numb because they are in a state of shock after trauma. That's why it's important for people to understand that during trauma it takes 2 to 3 days for a person to actually be able to realize the emotions that they are going through. So within the first day to 3 days after trauma, you're not sure what's happening. You can't even explain the emotion because you're in a state of shock. You're still shocked about what had happened. And also, again, you might find people who, you know, are very stressed, fatigued, anxiety because of what had happened. And, you know, we need to also understand that these symptoms or these signs, they are normal reactions that a body would go through after trauma. And that's also part of the healing of the trauma. You need to experience those emotions, those anxiety, those, you know, state of shock, those being alert, so that you are able to recover from the trauma.
Hectic.
And also, you know, if we were to look into, you know, the signs of trauma, we have psychological impact. Trauma can also impact people psychologically in a terms whereby they would have emotional responses, which are triggers of emotions like fears, you know, your sadness, your anger, feeling helpless, you know, feeling like you are panicking or you are in shock. And trauma can also affect you cognitively in a way whereby you find that it has affected your level of concentration, your ability to remember things.
What?
Yes.
That's a bit scary, but happy is a question.
The only audience.
The only audience. Go ahead.
No. Like, you know, I'm actually listening to what Makgabo is saying, and at the same time, I'm thinking about so many cases that are unresolved. Because the statement was not taken properly. And I'm making that statement because Makgabo said it takes up to 3 days, right? And sometimes your law enforcement want to have a statement now. Because when to open the case now. When it gets to the prosecution, then the evidence is not enough, or the statement does not make sense, because now that means people give statements while they're still
in a state of shock,
anxiety and shock and all this. So I think we need people like Makgabo at various police stations to assist, so that
you know, to say, come back and make a statement to you when you are calm.
Or let's work on it as you go. You lower down your anxiety and all that, because
it's hectic. I mean, also I think that's quite correct. But also, you know, when you're experiencing it, like you don't know what to do. You, like you said, you feel sometimes helpless. But I wanted to speak about then how do we get over it. But before that, I want to invite your questions. You know, on the comment section below. What are some of the the experiences that you've had when you were traumatized, so to speak, or when you experienced what Makgabo is speaking about. You think people, we are always on the alert. I want to lie to you. I think anxiety is one of the biggest, if not strongest, signs or symptoms, and I think everybody's experiencing that, especially when you're part of the LGBTQI plus community. You get to experience those things. But what are some of the stories or say experiences that you've had when it comes to all things trauma? And we are diving into that. Please share with us your voice note and also comment on the comment section below, and don't forget that hashtag Clinical Monday. Let's focus on the LGBTQI plus community. Guys, there was a year, I think it was 2020, 2021, where the people who make up part of the LGBTQI plus community were dropping like flies, literally killed at every corner of South Africa. And some of these cases, even today, I think some of them are still not solved. I mean, the one that I can remember because we attended the court case was Lindu Buhle, right? And even though that was, they given the verdict, but I think we live in a state of anxiety and shock. But let's talk about that. Commons, or how common is it for people who are part of the LGBTQI?
Well, I think it's very common for the LGBTQI community, to experience trauma. I mean, let's look at, for example, people who are, homophobic, people who would treat you unfair because of, your sexual orientation or your gender identity. I mean, how many people were denied opportunities to get jobs because they are, trans, because they are gay or lesbian people, you understand? So those things leave you they impact you in a way that you experience emotional distress in your life, you understand? That's traumatic, because then you get to ask yourself that, so does it mean that I'm never going to work because of who I identify myself as? That can be ongoing emotional distress for an individual. All the bullies that comes with coming out, you understand, those things can lead to trauma. And I mean, research has shown that individuals within the LGBT community do experience high levels of traumatic events. I mean, as compared to the cisgenders and the straight population, the lack of acceptance and hostility towards these identities within the society, the harassment, the violence, the sexual abuse, and all the traumas from our social medias and our, the stigmas and bias, together with the rejection, does contribute to trauma.
We are dealing with a lot as part of the LGBTQ. We are dealing with kuninzi, and I like the fact that you would then, also put it in the comparison as to cisgender people or individuals as compared to the LGBTQ. So I think we are dealing with a lot. But then, how do we then heal? So we've experienced either acute, chronic, whatever, or as part of the LGBTQI being rejected and all that. But how do we deal with it, with these traumas, so to speak?
Well, I think, one way that we can deal with this is to seek support from your friends and your family. And you must remember, when you would seek support from people who understand. People who are accepting of who you are, you understand. And also, I do believe that joining support groups that are affirming of, the LGBTQI community's gender identities or sexual orientation would also help, because you would be talking to somebody who is in the same journey as you are, somebody who can relate, unlike coming to speak to Makgabo and telling Makgabo, hey, this is what I'm going through. Remember, if I am not enlightened about the LGBTQI community, then I wouldn't be able to, I would lend you an ear, but that proper support that you need, it wouldn't be there. So joining, social groups, getting support from your peers and families, and even seeking professional help from, people who offer psychosocial support, your social workers, your registered counselors, your psychologists are out there, your lay counselors, they are there to support you with, the emotions that you might deal with, even if it needs just for them to contain you, they are able to do that and then further refer you to other platforms. So do seek help. And I always say that practicing self-care and self-love, it's also a very powerful tool, because I mean, the love that you are seeking from other people, if you learn to give it to yourself, then I think that you should be able to contribute towards developing what we call resilient. And when you're resilient, it's easy to bounce back from things that are challenging.
Another thing that is challenging, and things, that was a mouthful, by the way. Another thing that is challenging, Makgabo, and it sort of like would lean on the trauma, is suicide. And I think, as much as we don't speak about trauma, or we don't really, go in it with a tooth, what is that expression? Combine to go through it. Kids are smart, but bear with me. Go into these issues that deep. We don't really speak about them. We don't know the kind of impact that it has. So as much as we speak about trauma, we need to speak about suicide. And people kill themselves. And then especially the people who are part of the LGBTQI, we're dealing with the rejection, we're dealing with the trauma, we're dealing with the anxieties and all that. And equally to that, we're dealing with a society that is not welcoming. Let's dive into suicide, and personally, before we get deep into what then would be the relationship between LGBTQI plus people and suicide, let us define what suicide is for our audience.
So suicide would be explained or defined as the act of intentionally causing one's own death. So you are self-harming yourself with the intention to take away your life. That's the simple way of defining suicide.
I might be suicidal. What should I look out for? Or I might be in a group of people who are suicidal, or somebody might be suicidal. What should be the things that tick or show us that, hey, this person is suicidal?
Well, often symptoms about people who are suicidal is that they talk about dying. Yes, I would constantly have a conversation with you, and I'll be like, if I was dead, this wouldn't be happening, maybe if I didn't die, this would be better.
Because people would say, "Reswaning mara."
No, like you must also remember the context I get in which we would say it. Maybe hara reswaning is because 2 minutes, But every time when I speak to you, I'm always consistent about dying and feeling guilt or shame, and I'm a burden to my family. Why don't I just die?
Those are the signs. Okay, happy. I know. I know.
You know what I want to say? It's like I want to know how common, because does this mean if it always crosses my mind that if I die, it's okay? Does this mean I'm suicidal?
No, it doesn't. Remember when we defined suicide, we said you would act in an intentional way to take your own life. So if you're just having a thought whereby maybe it happened that you felt like why don't I just die? That's not
but maybe in a case where I can relate with that. Bottom line relate with. But now to a point that thought hangs in there to a point that even when you go to bed, you feel like, if I do not wake up, it's fine. I do not have issues with that. Should I die? Like a point where if you don't care anymore.
Well, I think I will still say if you do not then act, or even your behavior does not change in a way where you find yourself researching ways to die or planning ways to die, then I wouldn't. It's not as severe as it is. It's just a thought, a suicidal thought that you have that you can then maybe consider looking for, assistance within the relevant profession. But now, if you are showing signs and also you are, planning to put it into action, then I think
the intent.
Yes, the intent to, end your own life, then that's when we would say you are, suicidal. In some cases, you find that other suicide cases are very impulsive. One wants to just kill themselves due to stress, due to relationship problems, due to maybe due to maybe being, unpleasant at work or being harassed. That's what then we refer to as, impulsive acts of you acting impulsively because of the stress, and then you just want to take your life.
Guys, I think, we laugh about it, but I think it's quite serious in the sense that there are people that are actually thinking and are they have the intent to do it. They actually want to do it because of those reasons that you gave, and I think we need to be what is that? There's a sign on the side of the road when you're going to the airport. I think it's the R11 or R21. Yeah, it says be kind. I think that's what we need to do. Every time when I pass there, I just take that because I'm reminding myself to be kind to people because people are going through a lot. But let's mirror it to the LGBTQI plus community because we're trying to shine the spotlight on them. They are suicidal, and I think they could be more suicidal than cisgender people. Correct me.
Well, based on research and studies, it has shown that 42% of the LGBTQ plus community, they consider attempting suicide within the year of 2021 to 2022. So I think 42% it's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, you know, and the effects that are also seen is that there are high rates of suicide thoughts, the attempt, the self-harm, and within, the LGBTQ community, 3 times likely to commit suicide and 5 times likely to contemplate committing suicide.
So we're not only thinking about it, but we're actually putting the act because we either self-harm or actually take our own lives. It's you guys.
And also in one study that was done in USA during the 2015, it showed that the transgender survey found that 40% of transgendered reported to attempt suicide. So.
Yeah, also transgender people are the marginalized within a marginalized community, so I think those figures are really alarming.
It's a lot, right?
It is. Again, we think about it and we're not really necessarily, thinking that people actually go and do it, but people actually do it. Makgabo, what do we need to do? Or wait, what to do when we feel suicidal? Like, I feel suicidal, I know I have all these thoughts and I know I have all these, feelings. What do I do next? Do I call a V? Do I call a HP? Do I call a Makgabo? What do I do when I feel suicidal?
Well, I will always say when you feel suicidal, talk about the thoughts. Talk to somebody that you trust, somebody that you know that this is your safe space to go to, And there are, 24 hours suicide crisis line that one could find on the internet, to reach out. There's the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. I do know that they also work 24 hours. There's always somebody who's willing to listen to you. There's always somebody who's there to listen to those thoughts that you think they are not important. And what you can do is also, get safe now, by maybe getting through, I always say to my clients that when you feel like you want to die, like give yourself an activity that the next 5 minutes is very important. If I make it through the next 5 minutes, I can make it through. So basically, you will be challenging yourself to live for the next 5 minutes. Once you leave after that 5 minutes, you then reward yourself with something small, and then you push for the next 5 minutes. In that way, you are taking things minute by minute. You understand? So it does help. And also you can consider removing harmful things in your house. If you know that I have a knife and then I'm going to use it, get yourself a locker that you can lock, and then will come when you need those things to use, And also you can tell someone how you're feeling, like I did say, Other things that you can do is to distract yourself, If you feel that the feeling is intense, focus on equipping yourself with, self-harming techniques such as, it might sound funny, but taking an ice cube and you put in your hand, close your hand, allow the ice cube to melt, and then direct your thoughts into focusing on how cold the ice cube is in your hand. Then automatically when you redirect your thought process, you are shifting away from that thought of suicide. You understand?
AP wants to say something before you continue.
No, I'm saying brilliant because I can tell you those are the things that works. And, And I can tell you, like, your 24-hour helplines and all that, those are great, but the first ones actually are...
The immediate ones.
Yeah, the immediate ones, like, that person that you could go to now. And then, because also physical touch has a thing, right? Speaking to someone that you don't even know on the phone, it's good, but... If I were to speak to V now, and also I like the 5 minutes, leave up to 5 minutes. Because now
After 5 minutes, we would have covered a lot of things.
Well,
and you would, right?
I think we can win over mental health.
We can. We
It's
can.
just, a matter of more
Putting our
awareness,
mind,
as learning about the challenges and how to cope.
Yeah.
And also what you can maybe do to distract yourself is maybe tear a piece of paper into 100 pieces. By the time you get to 100 pieces, I swear, you would have forgotten that you wanted to die. You understand? So it's these little things that people don't know about that can actually just save their life from, or make them not commit that suicide and make it to the next day until they go seek professional help. You understand?
Yeah.
And also focusing on, your sense, we try to find things that you can smell, taste around, and go outside, challenge your thought process. I always say that the mind is a very powerful weapon. So be careful what you spend your time thinking about, because how you think contributes to how you feel, which will then contribute to how you act. So
say that again for us
how
at the
you-
back there. Choir,
how
listen.
you think will contribute to how you feel, which will then contribute to how you act.
Don't you want to also
What?
talk about music?
I had a conversation about that when we did Vanessa, and I was like, I wake up moody sometimes, and sometimes it's extreme moods where I don't even want to do anything, and I want to defrost after 10 or 11. And I was like, what can I do? Because it's constant. She's like, play music. I'm like, I play music, but I play a different kind of genre. She's like, no, maybe change the genre. I don't listen to that kind of music, maybe. So I was like, should I play bomb? So, so I think also music contributes.
Yeah,
It
because
does.
also people don't interrogate what they listen to, and sometimes
We don't.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like people stay a little bit longer in certain situations because of what they've been listening to, and how you listen to a certain type of music, and you start thinking, the situation, it's real and it's here to stay, and this is how I'm supposed to feel at this moment, and.
I think also what
Change
she's
the
saying about the music goes back to the things that you spend most of your time on contributes a lot, guys. I always say we must be careful what we do with our time. As much as get 30 minutes, but that's a very long time.
That's a very long time.
The things that you spend doing mostly contributes a lot to how one feels and how one acts. That's why I said when we defined trauma that also being kind does help. As you also did say, good news, guys, let's practice kindness.
It's a lot, right? I want to marry it to, again, I think, so mental health, then depression, the relationship between that, and at the end of it, Makgabo, how do we overcome, guys? I think that's the most important,
Do you want me to first answer the
Yes,
relation?
yeah,
Okay.
let's start with the
So
relationship.
often people who commit suicide, they are dealing with more than they are dealing with a combination of mental health, difficulties, plus the difficulty of life events. For a person to commit suicide, there's either depression, there's either substance abuse there, because there's a lot of things that are happening within their life, and they constantly feel that they can't survive, they can't cope, you understand? And also suicide, it's often seen with people who are related to psychiatric disorders, like your major depression, you understand, like people who have your schizophrenia, and other psychiatric disorders. Those people are often most likely to commit suicide, and 5 to 8% of mental health disorders like depression, your alcohol abuse, and your schizophrenia are most likely to contribute to suicide. You understand? And as I did say, how we overcome, it's us teaching ourselves on how to equip ourselves with self-harming coping mechanisms, us being able to talk to the next person, us trying to listen to better music to cheer ourselves up, guarding our thoughts,
Small things.
Yes, and if you can see that it's severe, today you think about dying, tomorrow still you think about dying, in the third day you also want to act, then seek professional help so that you can find somebody who will be able to assist you, There are clinics out there, there are hospitals out there, there are like, within the community, there is a pop-in in every province, right? And these people, they do outreach. I think as individuals, we also need to be accountable in wanting to find solutions and assistance. Because if I'm depressed, how am I going to get assistance if I don't voice, if I don't want to go seek proper channels that can help me? We as individuals also, we need to be accountable of our own healing journey. We need to initiate the healing journey, and looking for assistance is the first step towards your healing journey.
Your hand was up. I don't want to ruin
No,
that.
I want to say we come from communities where mental health has never been something that it takes serious, right? When you say you feel a little bit down and all that, there's usually something that they can throw at you. For instance, I'm feeling down, let's say beer. And also, when you come out and speak about it, sometimes you get to be victimized. Like, say depression. Hey, depression, come eat. Or you'll be killed by depression and hunger. And all that. So how do we also change the scene in I don't want to say black communities, but black communities, because I feel like I know I don't have study to prove that, but I feel like that's where the problem is. And also, we've never created spaces, man, to iron out issues of mental health. And when one comes out and say, this is how I'm feeling, we want to try justify it in a way. So how do we change the scene? The scene.
I think, what we are doing, this mental awareness, can change the scene at home, because the more people know and become enlightened and knowledgeable about these things, the less they would stop taking them for mockery. You understand? If I would give you an example with my own mother, my brother. My brother always, when he would see me, was like, "Hey, the refugee guy," and I'm like, "You would stop. Nobody is crazy. They are just, mentally unstable, emotionally, struggling. So nobody's mad." Till today, now he understands. He does not say it anymore. So you see, I had to educate him for him to understand. So I would say within our communities, those that are aware, those that have the information, teach others about these things. Then we will all be, knowledgeable and enlightened. Psycho-education, guys, very important.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because like sometimes you find yourself in a certain situation and you do not want to talk to anybody, because you fear what the next person is going to say. I remember, I think it was 2018 or 2017 there. When I was on antidepressants for a good 6 months or more, and nobody noticed anything. And by then, at some point, I thought maybe people pick it up, but vibes every day and all that. I'm like, okay, cool. Also, if you were to tell them now, then they would think, but also we were fine yesterday drinking. What's wrong now?
What happened?
Right? How people think certain situations are tied with certain times. And
it's not
then they end up not even opening up to people. So
we also, yesterday I had a thought, I'm like, maybe also amongst ourselves as friends, when we are sitting, man, instead of us always talking about men and women, let's talk about this thing. We share ideas. Like, I remember I once said to this other friend of mine, I wanted to hear their perspective about HIV people. I'm like, what's your take on HIV? That's how I got to know that this person does not know much about this. She's still in that thing. Those people are gonna die. So I think also, having such conversations amongst ourselves, then it helps. Word of mouth.
I know you and I talk about these things a lot, and that's why we brought you here on Clinical Monday to speak about such, and I hope that it has sort of like shined a spotlight in your little corner if you're feeling down, depressed, and out. And man, those are the tools that we need to take upon ourselves to deal with mental health, especially when we look at trauma and suicide, looking also at the LGBTQIA+ community. It's been a very thought-provoking and very deep conversation of Clinical Monday. I'm going to see you on the next one. Makgabo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
really
having
appreciate
me.
it. I know you won't be a stranger. We'll be seeing her more often as we dive into yet another clinical topic. Until then, happy streaming. Bye.